Hey out there, this is May 16th, 2018, and it's just about exactly 7:20 in the evening here in Northern California. And of course, we just heard a little bit of the national anthem. And, ever since I was pretty young, that tune always kind of gave me goosebumps, but not as much anymore. But it doesn't mean my affection for America has waned. It's just that the fact of the matter is America is due one hell of a lot of constructive criticism. But I have played the mindless jingoist in the past and unthinking kind of patriotism, and I don't approve of it. And as I get older and more mature, I've learned that constructive criticism is a big part of being a man and maturing. And as Apostle Paul, I think, put it, it's like the difference between uh, weaning, drinking milk only, let's say, and going to solid food. But, this is part of carrying the cross. And I thought wanted the theme today to be just rejecting the division that is obviously now to the vast majority of people, at least I believe it's starting to be, that the division in the land is being foisted upon us, shoved down our throats. This polarization, this idea that you're never going to get along, but you got to fight like hell for your side, and the idea, of course, the inference is that the side is like either you're liberal or you're this, conservative, mindless conservative. You're either a libtard or a neocon, a-hole idiot, uh, capitalist. Okay, I mean, think about it. This is how we're being divided. So my feelings are that we've got to, if we say we love our fellow man and we're trying to love our enemy, do what Jesus said and all that, then you have to really be honest with yourself. It's not about being accountable so much to your peers, other men, your family, friends, whatever, approval from the public at large. But we should care more about what God thinks about us in our thinking, in our words and deeds. But I fail. I mean, I'm not sitting here virtue signaling like I'm perfect, but I just know what I'm after. That's all, and I reject the division. And a house divided cannot stand. Okay, um, constructive criticism is what we need. We need to try to forgive each other before somebody. Don't wait for them to come to you and apologize. Jesus told several parables about this stuff, like this idea of forgiving over and over. If somebody comes to you and says they're sorry, yes, you do it 70 times 7, not 7 times, not 77, 70 times 7. I mean, Jesus said you keep doing it. You are forbearing, and you show that you reflect that amazing grace that he has for us, that helps us all to contend and cope in a mad world, because this is clearly a mad world. Nothing makes sense. Although we're told to derive some sense out of it so you can go along to get along. It'll prove you have common sense, that you're pragmatic, that you are, want to fit in, and this is the path of least resistance. This is how your life will go best if you just kind of conform to some degree and just choose a side, settle into some either socialist, communist philosophy, which you probably don't know anything about the history. I mean, if you look at Stalin, I mean, what this was communism or socialism. Look at China with Mao and all this. I mean, this is socialism. This is communism. This is what you want. Look at Venezuela. I mean, look at former Russia, the Soviet Union. I mean, former. Okay, now I'm not saying that the system we've had in America is a whole hell of a lot better. As a true capitalist, I object strongly to what's happened in my country. We had a coup. You got to understand, in 1963, when JFK was murdered. Okay, JFK was in the process of eliminating the Federal Reserve. Understand these things I'm telling you. Okay, understand what I'm telling you. He was serious about it. He was already circulating a currency. So Federal Reserve notes had already been supplanted effectively. Effectively. Do you understand? And the public was going for it. There's no problem. The public, the American people, would have had no problem just still being on silver notes, silver certificates. But you understand, at this point in history, would be free. So all this stuff ties into the scriptures, that this right time in history I talk about. You know, these things have to happen at the right time in history. But humanity has endured, decent, upright, righteous humanity has endured one whole hell of a lot. We know we've lost a lot of saints. We know these guys are playing with a marked deck. They're playing a rigged game. We know that, okay, because they're willing to compromise their conscience and their soul, basically, to keep running our lives, to stay in control, to be among the money printing class. Do you understand? So who's behind what happened in 1963, 55 years ago, this coming September? Well, we know who was behind it. I mean, for the most part, Quay Bono. Okay, you ask who benefits, and it's clear. I mean, this is absurd that the American people are so cowardly. Okay, I hate to say that. I hate to. But I mean, I don't know how else the Federal Reserve is still in business. The day after the assassination of JFK, any hint of impropriety, and the impropriety was not hinted, it was glaringly obvious. Okay, the Federal Reserve should not exist anymore. Okay, at least we should have continued on the trajectory that JFK was taking us on. Okay. But again, it's like, Peter trying to keep Jesus from being taken by the guards of the priests to be crucified. And Jesus told Peter, "Get thee hence behind me, Satan." So, you can't get too upset about what I believe is biblical. Okay, this stuff has to be at the right time. It's all about timing. And nobody knows. Jesus said, "I don't know. The angels of heaven don't know. But the Father knows when the right time is." Okay? And it said that the earth will behave in ways. I mean, we see what's going on with this volcano in Hawaii. I mean, not that any of this is new. We lost 150,000 people. What was it, back in 2005 or something, six, in the Indonesia tsunami, right? I mean, that's a whole hell of a lot of people. Mind-boggling, but there's just been a lot going on with Mother Earth too. So the Father knows. Jesus said, "We'll know the signs in the heaven, on the earth," all the stuff going on the earth. Men's hearts fainting for fear of what is coming upon the world, the whole earth. Wars and rumors of wars. I mean, are we not there? And these are all predicted at the end of the age, before the beginning of the new age. And hopefully all this stuff can be a seamless occurrence, as least traumatic as possible. I mean, my prayer is that God is gentle with us, okay, because we are pathetic. We are needy. And the lucky ones are able to admit that, okay? I feel sorry for the proud ones that don't acknowledge that God is their owner, and that, offers up every thought, every belief, every word, every deed to the one that owns you rightfully, understanding the transient, temporal nature of our very existence here. I mean, we aren't bodies. We're just encapsulated within a body. Much like when you jump in your car, you encapsulate the car with your being, your essence. Okay, you're in there controlling it. So that's what's going on here. They say when you lose a limb that you still feel like you always have for the rest of your life, you always feel like you have it. Just like you lose a few teeth and you always feel like, you still got those teeth. So it's a real phenomenon of, proving more that the invisible is real. That this rote memory we have of having a body doesn't go away. We get to keep it. God doesn't give a good thing like a body, like giving you a new car, and then take it away. No, we get a new one, is the promise. The promise for being a good, decent, upright, righteous human being is an eternity in paradise. That's what we should want. And if you don't want that, you won't get it. But, death is not God's fault, and his name has to be wholly vindicated. Neither is disease, neither are any of the organic suffering. I'm not going to go into it. It all stems from the original sin, the fall of man, the knowledge of good and evil, and the subsequent curse that befell the entire earth and all creation groans under the weight of sin to this very day. All that is scriptural. Okay, but all that organic suffering, these natural disasters and all this stuff, diseases and predators and all this crap, Okay, it was organic. It's never God's intention. He didn't want it to be, but he had to give us free will choice. So when we failed that test, that's when death entered in, disease and finally death. So sin leads to death. Okay, clearly. And that's what's written. So these things I'm teaching you and telling you are biblical. And but it was never his intention. He didn't want it. So the whole idea is that we would live eternal lives. And a lot of people would scoff. They would say, well, we would overpopulate the earth. Well, open your mind. Okay, think outside the box. I understand they found Goldilocks type planets, what, 10 or 100 times the size of Earth? Okay, it's absurd. Even the Earth itself is way underpopulated. When you figure that a lot of people like to live in concentrated cities, they dig that scene, man. Look at Manhattan. Look at San Francisco. These people love to be in these cities. Why? They love that. They love people. A lot of people that live in the big cities, they love people. You find out that a lot of them are actually very nice people in these big cities. And they like that, close living and concentration. It keeps them on their toes. Maybe they use it as a way of check and balance on them. Because when you live in the rural, you can get a little cavemanish, let's say, and cavewomanish. You get a little out of touch with close proximity, and so people can isolate pretty easily. It's not hard for people to go an entire day here in Northern California without getting out of their house, taking a drive, a walk, or something, or talking to anybody. So if you're living alone, that happens to a lot of people here. But this division crap, though. We've got to figure out these people. These people are a-holes, man. I mean, they are devilish. Devilish is diabolical. And they work on us in these ways. Now this latest thing, they got this, did you hear Laurel or did you hear Yanny? And it's like, oh my God, what in the hell is going on here? I mean, this is mind-effing us. Okay, why in the hell are they promoting this stupidity? That's like, you're going to hear what is being said likely, okay? It's just like Speaker Ryan. He heard what was said. You can hear the difference when they play Yanny, you hear Yanny. When they play Laurel, you hear Laurel. But I mean, this is the kind of mindless crap that's being shoved down our throats, So continuing here, this polarization, this division that is being artificially conjured up by evil people is something to not take lightly, but to take very seriously, because, like it's written, a house divided cannot stand. And it's not like one side of this debate is all bad and the other side is all good, and somehow we're all going to have, the other side suddenly is just going to have an epiphany, and that's what's going to unite us. I mean, do you see how the devil is in the details here? That it's absurd, and we all have to carry our own fair share of weight of the cross, and in terms of forgiving before people are sorry. Okay, when Jesus was being hung up and crucified, what did he say? He said, Father, that was his prayer, forgive them, those that were murdering him mercilessly, cruelly, humiliatingly, naked on a cross. Do you understand? Okay, that was the fate that these people put the Son of God through. You understand why Jesus has authority over the earth? He earned it. Okay, and he asked God to forgive them, his Father to forgive them, because why? There was a reason. Okay, not because he was just a cucked idiot. Okay, but because they don't know what the hell they're doing. Okay, or as he said, for they know not what they do. So understanding what's going on here, and understanding that people hurt people in very significant, serious, tangible ways every day of the week. And we ourselves have a propensity to do that unwittingly often by our thoughtlessness, by just living a thoughtless life, by prescribing to an ignorance is bliss philosophy and divorcing ourselves from the plight of the downtrodden, from our fellow human beings, and thinking we can get away with it, thinking we can skate. And we fool ourselves into believing that this pseudo happiness that we find through financial security financial freedom, okay, temporal things, much like a dream. Okay, you wake up from both of them. They come to an end and nobody knows when it's going to end. You never know when you're sleeping and have a deep dream at night that you never know when something's going to fall off the shelf and wake you up or whatever. Something could wake you up, jar you out of sleep at any moment. And it's the same thing with life as a human being, that these bodies are bodies of death. And that's science. That's not being negative. It's just a fact.